Okay, so in this video we're going to be adding a Balluff IO-link, and this is going to be the part number that we're going to be doing is a BN508-105. Now this is going to be, again, slightly different. What I'm going to do is actually show you how to do a generic module, and then we're going to actually show you how to actually import the EDS file. So very first, and when you come into your control logics, right? So we're in our working environment is Studio5000 version 32. So this will all be the same whether you're using RS Logix 5000 or Studio 5000. It doesn't matter. This is going to be doing the exact same thing. When you go to add module, you're going to be adding it under your Ethernet module section, right? So this is going to be an Ethernet module. It's going to be IO-link. So we're going to come in here, and you come in here and you type in generic, right? And when you type in generic, you have three different things. You can type in this generic module just right here, right? So then if you're going to do this as a generic setup, first we're going to do that setup, and then we're going to come back and do the proper setup, right? So the proper setup is a little bit different, but I want to go ahead and give you the generic setup just so you have something to go off of in case you just want to do that. So we have the generic setup right here. We're going to select create. Then we're going to come in here, we're going to change this from a dent to a cent, right? So the data is going to be a single integer. So we're going to add our IP address. We'll just put in like a default 192.168, just put 0.5. And then we're going to put, for our instance, our input, we're going to put 100, and then we're going to put 101. And this would be 102 for our configuration. Now this is all per the actual the PDF for this. So and then we're going to change the inputs to the size to 128, and then we'll change this to I believe it's 86, and then we'll change this and call this Balluff, and then underscore, and then we'll call this the BN. This is the 508, and then we'll do underscore again, and then we'll do 105, and then we'll do underscore again and put Z05. Okay, so this is the actual original setup that you would do if you would do a generic module. Now if you come in here and look at your immediately as soon as you open this up, now I had no IO before this, right? So immediately when you come in here now, you see you go to your controller tags, and you'll see you have the module that we added. Okay, you have the configuration for it, the configuration data, you have your input data, and you have your output data for the module. Okay, so with that said, you can use this with the AOI that comes with that. Now with the same thing being said, let's go ahead and add a second one. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to get all of this data as we go about it, but let me go ahead and add the second one. So first we're going to do brand new module, and then we're going to come in and pick our module this time. So this time we're going to put 508, and you're not going to have this set up unless you've previously done Balluff before and you've added the EDS file. So again, when it comes down to it, we're going to add this in here because I've already got this EDS file from the website. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second, but let's go ahead and in the interim, let's go ahead and add this in here. Now we're going to create this, and we're going to call this. See, this gives us a nice, easy looking, not a generic setup, but the actual setup you would actually see from adding a Rockwell device. So again, when it comes down to it, let's put in the Balluff, and then we'll do underscore, and we'll call this BN 508 underscore 105 underscore Z, and then for this one we'll put IO. That way we know the difference, and we're still going to keep a private network, so let's actually call this 8. And just for the sake of talking about this real quick, changing this, you see the compatibility actually changes it changes the inputs to 392, and then it changes the outputs to 268. Now So slightly a little bit different, but again, when it comes down to it, this is directly from the website, and this is directly from the EDS file provided directly from Balluff themselves. So when it comes down to it, this is the setup that you actually get. So I have a duplicate IP address, so let's actually change this IP address to 10, and let's hit OK. So now we've added two of them. One we actually have the EDS file for, and then one we have the generics, right? We have the generic setup for. Now, again, when it comes down to it, the IO right here, this is the one we actually just set up. This is the one with the EDS file. If I were to delete the generic one we just did, right? Let's just delete that for the sake of argument. Then you could see our IO is just like this, right? That's our IO, right? So that's the Balluff IO for that module, right? So you have the configuration, you have your IO, and then you have your inputs and your outputs, right? So coming in here, if we were to add, let's just say, for instance, you wanted to add the actual AOI to use this, right? Because this is, when you're configuring this type stuff, it's a little bit different. Now, you're probably wondering, where do I get all this stuff? Where did I get the information that I just showed you? Where did I get the EDS files? How did I register the EDS files? Real quick, registering EDS file, if you want to come up here, you go to Tools, then you go to EDS File Hardware Install, and then you would come over here, and that's how you would register your file. Okay, you would click Register your EDS files right here, click Next. At that point, you would go to Register your directory of EDS, and then look in the subfolders. Okay, then you would guide this to the place that you do have the EDS file. In my case, I believe it was right here. This is where I had the EDS file, and then I clicked Next. This is going to add the EDS file into your system. So this is exactly what you would see again when installing the actual EDS file. Now, I already have it installed, so it's not going to hurt for me to run it again. So I'll run it again. So that's exactly how I did this, and actually how I added it in. So I have two of them in my system. You saw that, right? So you're probably wondering where exactly I got those from. Now, real quick, we'll go to the website. Now I'm on my VM, so I can easily jump from one screen to another screen. And I'm going to go to the Balluff website right here, right? So if you go to the Balluff website, you can easily put in if you go to the search bar, okay, you can easily come up to your search bar, and let's just say the part number is right here. Let's just say the part number is a Balluff, again, BN508-105-z015-C6. Okay, let's just put that in there and see what we get. So we're going to copy this, we're going to go over here to the search bar, and we're going to paste that in there real quick. You're going to see that it gets no results. So take out the BN and then try it again. So now you're going to get the actual, again, you're going to get the actual component. Now, coming back, looking at this, now we'll go to the actual page for this, right? So this is the actual Balluff IO block that you would actually get, right? So that you probably already have. When it comes down to it, you go to Downloads, and then you go down here, and this is where you get your EDS files from. You would download your EDS files right here. You see under Software. Also, too, I want you to note there are several different versions of this. So when it comes down to it, if you're looking for this and you don't find the one you want, so merely subtract the last section of it, and it will give you multiple versions of this, and then you can easily find, let's just say, a different model if you wanted to do a different model. In this case, let's just use, so you see the IO block right here. Let's just use this IO block, which is the BN508-105-z015, and then we can come down here again, and then at that point go down to Downloads. You get your PDFs, all your information for that. You come down here, and then you're going to go to Software. You get an AOI for function block, but the most important thing is you get your EDS file. Okay, so you're going to click that, and you're going to download your EDS file. Okay, that is the EDS file that you would take and use. Now you're gonna actually take that file and you're gonna unzip it. Okay, so on my desktop of my other computer, I actually have that file and it's unzipped so that it will point to it and actually see that. Okay, so now you can see how to actually utilize that. Now I'm going to show you another point where you can actually get the actual IO for this. So there's an add-on instruction as far as this goes that you can use as well. So that add-on instruction is a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit harder to find from the website. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the section up here. You're going to go to Balluff. You're going to go to the drop-down menu, and you're going to go to Downloads. Okay, this is not very intuitive, but I want you to see exactly the process on how to do this. You're going to go to PLC Modular Coding, and then this is going to come up to a screen where you're going to have to fill out your information. All this is saying is that you agree to their agreement for using their custom AOI. Basically saying that they're not responsible or being held liable for any kind of issues if you do have or program this or change the program of the AOI. So basically you just fill this out and they will send you an email. This will send you an email with a link to this page right here where you can go to get the HMI faceplates, where you can use this on the HMI like a Factory Talk View Site Edition faceplate or something like that. Or you come over here to your Rockwell add-ons. This also gives Omron and Siemens as well, so just keep that in mind. But we're going to do a Rockwell one. All right, and then we come down here and we pick the versions that we want. So we have the Ethernet devices. Okay, so Ethernet IP devices, and then we have the Ethernet IO-link master. Okay, so there's two differences in that, right? There's a lot of stuff on this page, and there's a lot of stuff you can use, but when it comes down to it, we want to actually look at the Ethernet IO-link master. Okay, so this gives you all of the links right here for the device and the part numbers. So this gives you the part numbers that you're actually looking for. So again, if we're looking for a part number, right, that says 105-z015, right, so we can easily come up here and say, okay, this is the one we want right here, right? So again, when it comes down to it, now again, how do we know that? Again, when it comes down to seeing what the part number is and seeing how many inputs out, we have the C06. Again, this is bring back that exact model. But this is, then you download the AOI, which is your add-on instruction, right? So again, you would take that AOI and then use that. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe I have an Ethernet device, just come over here to Ethernet devices and see if your part number lines up. If your part number lines up with one of these, then maybe you have that AOI. Again, this is just giving you the variability to find and easily track where the AOIs are coming from, right? The AOIs being the add-on instructions from Rockwell, right? So this is the add-on instructions that Balluff has made to work with Rockwell. So let's go ahead and install that. I'll show you real quick on how to install that. Okay, so back on our actual page, our program, right, our PLC program, and we've added in our Balluff our EDS file, right? So we've added our IO, and now we want to come into our main program and add our first thing. So we haven't added our add-on instruction in here yet, so we're going to go to Assets, and we're going to go to Add-on Instructions. And we're going to go to Import, and then you're going to go down to your add-on instruction that you actually have. So we have to look at which one did we actually download, right? So when it comes down to it, you can easily find that by going back, looking at the one we downloaded right here, and pulling that over. So you can see I've downloaded this a couple times just so I could make sure that you were well aware of how to do, how to actually get all this. So this is again the AOI right here, which is going to be basically you just paste it on there, and then you would want to unzip, right? So you would extract all, just like unzipping a file, right? You extract all. So you do that. again, I already have this done, so again, when it comes down to it, these are the files you get. It also tells you how to use this, so if you have any questions on how to do that, it gives you an easy guide to, well, how to use the PDF on how to use the actual add-on instruction. So with this said, we're going to go ahead and add the add-on instruction into our system. Okay, so we're going to go in here. Let's go into Add, Import. We're going to go to our desktop, and then we're going to go down to where we have this right here. We're going to add in our add-on instruction. We're going to accept everything and create the add-on instruction. Again, this is for the module that we just got through describing. Okay. As soon as that gets done importing, all we're going to do is look. And a second too, while we're here, you can look at the logic and tell when it was written, and tell this is copywritten in 2013. So it's not necessarily something brand new, but it is something proven. You can easily tell the code behind this, but we're not necessarily focused on the code behind it until you actually get it functioning. The most important thing about anything is getting it functioning first, right? Alright, so we're going to add our first rung. We're going to go to add-on instructions, where we do now have our add-on instruction for our Balluff. And this again is for that specific model. We're going to add this in as our IO-link master. So we're going to call this BIN master. And we're going to make sure we change the scope of work. If by default your scope of work is going to be controller tags, you want to change your scope of work to your main program. So this is going to be program scope tags. Okay, so we're going to come in here and we're going to create that, and that's going to give the add-on instruction a name. So you could have named this whatever you want to. I just chose to name this the master, right? Now the next thing you're going to have is, and let's actually get this a little bit, zoom in on the view a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. The next thing you're going to have is the raw input. We're going to select the raw input, which was going to be our inputs, right? So this is the data from our input. And then we're going to do the output, which is the raw data from our outputs. Okay. This is going to be the configuration. And this is all tags you derived from what you built down here, right? So keep in mind, these are all tags that have already been in your system that you added from your IO tree. So all three of these, all the very top, you've added. Now the rest of these you're going to have to make, which no worries about that, because if you just right click and you click that, basically you're saying port 1. In this case, I'm just going to call it port 1. I'm going to call this port 2. And then so on, right? So all the way down, this is an 8-port device. So we'll call this port 3 and call this port 4 and call this port 5 and so on. And it's a little bit monotonous when it comes to programming, but you get the point behind what I'm doing. Now the last one I will say is a little bit different, so just bear with me just a second while I type the last one. And this is going to be port 8. Okay, so this last one is going to be your map data. So what I like to do for this is I like to call it mapped IO. Now you can call it mapped _ IO or mapped if you want to. I call it mapped IO, and that way I can easily find it. Now, being able to see this data is you can go into your program, right? Your main program, you can go under parameters and local tags, and now you can see all of your data. Okay. Now keep in mind, when you download to the device, like if you make a change to the device, underneath everything, you'll see that you have your mapped IO, you have your configuration. If you're going to make a change to this, you're going to see there's going to be a port in here that says function right here. For each one of the ports that you're going to be using, you're going to need to set that for whatever you're going to be using. In this case, if I wanted to use port 1, I would change that to 1, and you see for each one of the ports there are a function, right, for the actual port. So in the configuration you do need to set that, and so if I'm going to use port 2, I would set that to 1 as well. And then again, the manual that you have for this actually tells you this, so just make sure you go through that AOI manual. So when it goes into that, you have everything done for your mapped IO, right? Now you can come into your port, or let's just say port 1. We use port 1 and port 2. If I wanted to control something on my outputs, I can easily start controlling stuff on my outputs based upon what I wanted to do. If I was controlling a light, or I could do that if I was getting an input back from a device, or whatever your IO is that is going to be attached to this actual remote IO device, which is the IO-link, right? So just keep that in mind. There's going to be stuff, and another key component to this is that if you make a change to like your PLC program and you download it and you're not getting a good response, you need to cycle the power to the actual IO device. So in that device that we talked about, if I come back here and actually show you, if we're talking about the device that we were showing right here, let's go back to our devices. If we're talking about this device, if we download to the PLC and it does not give us a response that we want to, we need to cycle the power to this actual device as well to reset the whole command. Now you can do that as well from the PLC, but again, when it comes down to it, as far as the master, that goes back to resetting, and there's some commands in here you can do, but again, when it comes down to it, just keep in mind, you kind of want to read the manual and see what you can do as far as that goes. Again, the sky's the limit when it comes to this type of stuff. I just want to show you a couple key tricks and tips to how to actually install the actual AOI and get it functioning, because there's not too much data on this. And when I had to go through this and I had to learn this, it was kind of through the hard way. So I wanted to actually at least build something that was somewhat helpful and knowledgeable to share with it. Again, when it comes to it, that's how you add the EDS file, that's how you add everything in, that's how you add a generic module, and that's how you add the AOI for that, and actually finding the information that you actually get from the website. So hopefully that again was helpful, and as far as going through the website, finding the AOIs, even coming back, going and getting like the AOI faceplates. If you want to get the faceplates so you can use in FactoryTalk View, they're right there. You can just download them and then incorporate those into your FactoryTalk Site Edition application. Again, when it comes up to it though, it really depends on the model you're using, and again, how you use the search and stuff up here. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully you found this video really helpful. I know it was kind of long, but when it comes up to it, when you're programming something and you're trying to hunt around on the internet trying to find data, it's kind of hard to find. I know I didn't find much on this, so I wanted to make something, at least a guided effort to try to help you get your stuff working. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you guys on the next one.